Cultural Center's called for a press briefing. Cultural Center's just gonna go over the facts of the project, just for your sake. They're gonna give, state that, Lisa's gonna give that out. Following that, there will be opportunity to ask questions for the media and anybody else who wants to ask questions about the project. There are different representatives here. For example, Lynn Jacobs is here for the Environment Office. She's not on the project per se, but there are environmental questions related to this project. So later when we do the Q&A, different people may be answering questions, be able to answer questions, even though they won't be presenting information. So with that, I'll let Lisa take it away.
So what we're here today is we're just here to present some facts in regard to our new building project that we've been working on. So as Neil stated, I'll state the facts, and then there'll be opportunity afterwards for any questions, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. So for us, we had a team that was composed of myself, Trina C. Dybel from MCK, Anna Mae Rice as one of our board members here at KOR, Christine Zachary Diome as a council chief at MCK, Jessica Hernandez, and Brittany LeBourne, representatives of the Turtle Island Theatre. So we formed this team back in June of 2016, 2 years ago. And in June and July of 2016, sites were shown to us, to the team by the lands unit. What we did was we went to the lands unit and we asked them what lands were available within the community that could potentially be a site for a new building. What had the size, and the services and accessibility so that we would be able to put a building on. So we were shown, I think there were 3 sites, 3 sites that were presented to us. And as a team, we went out and we looked at these sites. One of the sites that was presented to us was behind the sports complex. Another site that was presented to us was behind Kahnawake School, close to the quarry. And then the other site that was presented to us was the site just right before the present Kahnawake Survival School. So we went and we looked at all of the sites several times and, discussed the benefits of each site. Some of the sites, while they were acceptable to us, did come with some, I don't want to say, not difficulties, but there were some reasons why they were not good choices for us. Behind Kahnawake, the only access that we would have been able to get would be to go through the apartments, the road that go through the apartments. And there's a house almost on the road. There wouldn't be enough room for buses to get through and whatnot, and we considered it a safety issue as well, with all of the homes and the children there. We did ask if we would be able to access and have a road built between Step by Step and Kahnawake, but we were told that it wasn't safe for both schools. Behind the arena, we looked at that, and there's residential behind number 1, and we weren't sure that if we necessarily would want to put a building so close to residential homes. And also there's only one access into that particular site as well. We did look at the possibility of having a road, another access in, but then that would require the highways. And it was told to us that it wasn't doable, or that the likelihood of it wasn't very good. We did go out to the lands that were presently have been deemed a potential site for the new building, which is right prior to the present Kahnawake Survival School. When we went in there, it just seemed a perfect fit for us. We went in there, and when you walk inside, and you just, the feeling that's there, I can't describe it. Also, we're aware that 40 years ago, because presently right now we're in our 40th year, as well as Kahnawake Survival School. Going back and doing the research, the vision 40 years ago was for us to build out there and to be, in close proximity to Survival School. So here we are 40 years later with that same vision. So that's how that proposed site is how it was chosen. Sorry. There is a foundation that's still out there, and that was where a cultural center was supposed to go before. The cultural center wasn't built due to lack of funds. The wood that was there was moved, and it went to Mohawk Trail Longhouse, and it was used to build Mohawk Trail Longhouse. We also liked that area because there were services available. You know, the water and all of the sewage and that is out there. So that was one of also the appeals. In June and July of 2017, study dollars were approved. Working along with Trina Dybel from MCK, a proposal was submitted to Aboriginal Initiatives Fund and Canada Heritage under the Cultural Spaces Fund, where they agreed to fund a feasibility study. The total cost of the feasibility study was $240,000 and $2,400 and $450. We were told that it was a must that we had to carry out this study to ensure that the area is feasible, and in order for us to continue forward to submit proposals to obtain and be successful in getting money in order to build the building. This was a must that the feasibility study had to be done. At no time were any community dollars put into that feasibility study. As I said, the Aboriginal Initiatives Fund and Canada Heritage split the cost 50-50 for the cost of this feasibility study, and they supported the study moving forward. But at this time, MCK did support us and supported this project moving forward and the study being done. In August of 2017, the company Evoke was hired to carry out the feasibility study, and at that time a press release was sent out throughout the community. In November of 2017, KRLCC, the Netahagangwana Language and Cultural Center, made a presentation and announcement at the Education Annual General Assembly to parents and staff and teachers. Agendas were sent out to all of the parents with children that fall within the Kahnawake education system. Trina was on hand, myself, Regan, and we gave a presentation at the AGA. A thorough presentation, and some questions were asked, and we answered them, and we felt that that presentation went very well. Since then, we have been in talks as well. We've been in talks with the Kahnawake Education Center, Dewaduni Zakta, and the Kahnawake Combined Schools Committee before the Annual General Assembly to talk about the project. Education Combined Schools Committee and Kahnawake Survival School are fully aware and have been fully consulted. Each and every staff and student we met with, well actually not we met with. The first on May 8th, Evoke went to Kahnawake Survival School and met with the staff there to give a presentation so far, you know, to give them an update on the project and on the feasibility study, to present to them some diagrams and designs that they had in mind for this particular project and to get their input. The following day, Trina and I attended and supported Evoke, and we met with the entire school body of Kahnawake Survival School to give the same presentation, to let them know about the project, to show them where we're at this stage, and also to ask for them to have the opportunity to ask any questions should they have. Our plan initially was not to be present for the talks and the consultations with the students, simply because we felt that maybe our presence might cause people to not feel comfortable, you know, to be able to give their input. But at the request of the teachers of Survival School, and the day before when they were consulted, it was suggested that it would be very ideal and actually necessary for Trina and I to be on site for those consultations, and that day went well as well. Some of the concerns, most of the children, the ones that did ask questions, seemed in support of the project, in support of the building. Some of the input that we received were actually very surprising to us, because some of the students had suggested, why do we not actually in fact attach the new cultural center / museum theater building to KSS, you know, directly right to it, to connect to it. Our response to that was, well, we were surprised, number one, that they would want us to be so close. You know, we're trying to to be in close proximity, but not too close. And also that we've heard that there may be talk of future expansion at Kahnawake Survival School, so we didn't want our new building to impede in any way any future expansion. They had some questions about the parking lot when we told them the size of the parking lot, the suggested parking lot for the new project. They expressed that they felt the parking lot was too small. But in general, for the most part, there were no clear-cut objections made to the project. And that was in May. There was also a March 15th day that was set aside specifically for all education, persons and students, and all consultation was included on site. We've had, for the feasibility study, EVO consulted with certain groups within the community, KOR with the theater group, representatives from the theater group. They also consulted with representatives from Kahnawake Education Center, Kahnawake Survival School. I know that some teachers showed up with some students. With the Kahnawake Welcome Center, with the Kahnawake Powwow Committee, MCK, Environment. Anybody else that I'm missing?
Elders that are attached to KSS and KOR.
Mm-hmm. So everybody was consulted, and that was how the conception for, or the vision for the building was. We have 3 different concepts that we can draw on. And these consultations took place over a period of 2 weeks. Also in September and October of 2017, an archaeological dig took place. Trina coordinated that. And we felt that it was important. It wasn't necessarily something that needed to be done, but we felt that it was important because our community stance has been to do archaeological digs. And we felt that in our own community that we must do the same. So we did have several students, past students, right, from survival school, and that went well as well. I think there was only one find that was deemed important.
It was near where the shack was being built for the maple.
The maple shack.
Yeah.
There was a small find that was there. It was nowhere near the proposed site that we're looking at, the proposed location, but it was closer to the maple tree shed that Kahnawake Survival School has up. A press release was sent last week, and that was just to inform the community that one of the next steps that was taking place in this project was the geotechnical investigation and survey that would be carried out this week that we're presently in. And there was also an article in the Eastern Door. For this, what was going to take place was a survey of the soil and the trees, an aerial survey, and a technical investigation. And this is a standard, geotechnical is a standard test that's done for any grounds to make sure that the grounds are viable and good to put a building on, to be built on. It's actually something that the present site at Survival School also went through, and any place where we have buildings within our community. And so I guess what I'm going to do is get to this week, to presently where we're at and why we are presenting the facts for this. We have been working on this very consistently for the past 2 years, but also past 3 years we've begun work on this. But even before, I don't want to just put a number on it saying the past 3 years, because we're in our 40th year, and there have been talks about a new building for us dating back 40 years. Like I said, we talked about the vision 40 years ago, where this cultural center, where our cultural center was going to go, you know, the vision to have it put on that location. And actually that was at the request of the Kahnawake Combined Schools Committee, who came to the cultural center and requested, you know, that we look at and consider building there. We've had studies, Lund-Home studies that have been done in the past. So the new building is not a new project. It's just that this is, we've been actively working towards this very consistently right now. And it's been very positive. Trina is a technician at the Mohawk Council, and this is her happy file because it's for language and culture. We have many people involved in this project. We went out throughout the community. We talked to different people to see who would be interested in being a partner within the building to reside in the building with us. There's been a lot of work that's been done, proposals done, meetings that have been done. We actually sat down with representatives from the federal and the provincial government who also recognize, that a building is needed, and that's where the feasibility study came into play. This past week, I'm sure, and I'm just going to address it, one of the reasons why we're here is to get out the information to the community, to state the facts. But what happened this week is the geotechnical investigation and the survey that was to take place that I spoke about with the press release and the story in the Eastern Door spoke about, was to start yesterday. No, it was Friday. Sorry, the previous Friday. Trina was on site, and we did have a community member who came by to see and to ask questions and to see what was going on, and his questions were answered, we felt to satisfaction. Yesterday, we both were on site, and the same community member had some concerns again. So in speaking to him, he requested to have a meeting with us, to have a meeting about this particular study that was going on. He didn't know what was going on, and he had questions. So we offered to shift our schedules and to meet with him, and it was agreed upon that we would have a meeting here at KOR on site at 2:30 p.m. yesterday. And he agreed to that to that meeting, where we would have the opportunity to explain to him the facts of what in fact was going on there, to explain the building project, and to answer any questions that he should have. So it was agreed upon, and then soon after we received a text where he said that he was coming to the site and he was stopping this study. He did show up, he approached the car, and I'm simply stating facts. Came to the car where we greeted him. Trina told him to get into the car to come in and that we would start to talk, but he didn't want to talk to us, and he just wanted the project to stop. He did get verbally aggressive with us, which, as two women in the community sitting in a car being nice and wanting to talk, it was a bit unsettling for sure. And then he went down the road, he blocked the road, and then he went in and kicked the technicians out, the people that were working on the property. I know that there's a lot of things out on Facebook. I haven't seen them, but I've heard of videos. And so what happened was Chief Christine Zachary-Dion was on site, as well as William Daiwo, and they spoke to him. It was agreed, and he agreed to meet with the group at the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. So yesterday afternoon, we spent 3 hours at Mohawk Council of Kahnawake with the community member to explain the project to him, to explain anything that was going on. All of the information, all of the facts were given, just like I explained how the project came to the point it is now. There was a lot more other information that was given. We shared to him, why we wanted that, what I gave, how did we come to choose that land? What were the sites that were presented to us? Why did we pick that particular site? We explained to him the studies that were to take place this week. The study was to determine if the ground was in fact good and able to have a building put on it. We weren't going there to put a building on it. It's a study, it's part of our feasibility study. There were trees that were marked off, with fluorescent marker, not marker, but tape. Those trees were marked off because it's part of the tree survey, which is part of the study that was to take place. At no time were those trees marked off to be cut down. And that information was relayed in this 3-hour meeting to this particular community member. He's very full aware of what the intent was and why the study was to take place. But at no time were trees to be cut. brush was to be cut, and that was told that some brush, at the beginning would be cut in order to get in to do the boreholes, to do the study. When he did get there, and after he stopped the work and he kicked the men off out of there, we tried to address the environmental issue that he had. He's about the trees in the forest and not wanting it to be cut. We did speak to the company to see if in fact we could find a smaller machine to do the work. He wanted us to have it done by hand. That simply wasn't doable. The machine that was there, that we in fact was going to be used, was the smallest machine. Environment, a representative from Environment was on site Friday, and they've been working with us, and they were there to ensure and had actually laid out, we had a picture of a map of the land where the boreholes, the 13 boreholes would be picked, where it would be dug, and Environment had helped to create a path, to draw out a path that the technicians would follow that would create the least environmental impact, the least trees to be cut. And we acknowledge that some brush would be cut. I know that people are worried that we were going there yesterday and this week and we're cutting down trees. That's simply not the truth. This morning, we went back again to try again to have the work done. And again, the individual was there with other people to have the work stopped. The peacekeepers were on site as they were yesterday. They were called. I'm going to be 100% honest. I did call the peacekeepers to tell them, not to tell them, but to ask them. I explained where I was, what the situation was that was going on. I was worried about violence taking place, and I wanted to know what to do. I was told at that time that they were actually on their way on site because there was a Facebook live feed that was taking place, and the entire community, well, it was out there in the community, and they had in fact seen it and knew that there was a situation going on, and they were headed to the site. So this morning, we tried to proceed again with the study to continue, because we do have a deadline for the study to be completed, and then another deadline for the feasibility study to be completed. So we tried again at 7 a.m. this morning to have the work done. The company was there, as were Regan and I and Trina, and the peacekeepers were on hand to be present to make sure that the work could be done without any obstruction and without any obstruction. But that didn't happen. In the end, we had to make the choice. Regan and I and Chief Christine Zachary-Dion, who actually went out onto the site to speak to them, to try to speak to them and see if anything could be done to allow the work to continue. We all made the decision at the time to not have the work continue for today, for the safety of the children, the toddlers that were out there on site, because there were children out there. There were toddlers. There were about 5 or 6 children out there. We didn't want to do anything that could cause confrontation, something that could get violent, especially with babies and toddlers on site. So we decided to shut down for the day. Is there anything you'd like to add? I know that we plan on continuing. We're hoping that a resolution can be found. If this study is not completed and we're not able to fulfill the feasibility study, to meet the deadline of the feasibility study, there is a very high possibility that this project will be dead in the water. That the new building for the cultural center / museum / theater can be at this time.
At the very least, they would have to start over.
We would have to start over all those years of work, should we not be able to reach an agreement. In yesterday's meeting, where we were present, myself, Regan, Lynn Jacobs, Billy Daibo, Christine Zachary-Dion, we did our best. We laid out all of the information and we presented the project and how it evolved and how we are where we are now. We asked for solutions, but we couldn't come to, you know, a compromise. We couldn't. So we tried this morning to, you know, to start again. I don't know if anybody, I do want to thank Lynn Jacobs for being here. Lynn is here for environment to answer any environmental questions that people may have, because I know that that is some of the concern, or that is one of the main concerns that's being expressed out there, is environmental and to not destroy our land and to not clear cut a forest, a very heavily populated forest. At no time was the intention ever, should the building, should we receive the money for a new building and be able to put a new building there, at no time was ever there an intent to clear cut the entire area. We would have done selective cutting and done the best that we could to cut as minimal trees as possible. Lynn has been helping us. We did receive some concerns from the Environment Office as well initially at the beginning. And one of the things that was asked is if Environment Office could be consulted and to know every step of the way of what we were doing. They've been working with us. It's not their project. They've just been there to try their best to ensure that we're being as environmentally sound as we can and that we're doing as little damage, you know, or impact to the environment and to that forest. I know that I've heard of some things or seen some things as well, you know, criticisms of the Environment Office. And I just want to say, you know, that this is not a project of theirs and that they're simply there for the community and trying to do their best to ensure that we're being the best that we can be environmentally, you know, and that we're not down there clear cutting trees and doing damage. So I just want to thank Lynn for that. In turn, as well, yesterday at the meeting, she did give out that information as well, and to the best of her experience and knowledge, explain that area. Is there anything else?
No, I think people could ask questions.
One more thing I did want to say. For the building, the way it's been through the consultations and going through the steps of the feasibility study, the proposed site or acre, size that we would need for a building of this size that would house the cultural center, museum, and theater is approximately 47,000 square feet. So I just wanted to give that information. The designs that have been developed, and they're all conceptions, they're not written in stone, but we actually were even looking at building up, you know, to use as less land space or area of space as possible. In addition, it is the cultural center. The vision is that the cultural center will be in there, the theater will be in there, the museum, which is part of the cultural center. We also had, through consultation, requests and space in the proposed building to house the Kahnawake Powwow Committee as well as the Kahnawake Welcome Center. I think that was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give that information. But I do also want to acknowledge and thank Trina C. Daibo for all of the work that she's done the past few years on this project. And I do want to thank the Mohawk Council. I know a lot of times the council, and this is me speaking from the heart, but a lot of times I know that the Mohawk Council gets slammed for maybe not doing enough for language and culture. And the work that's been done these past few years and the commitment for this project has been amazing. It would be a community building, but the intent is for it to be built for the cultural center and the theater. we've been given so much decision-making on this project. They've done work and offered their expertise, their hard work for us to be able to get to this point. There's so much work that has been done. And I really want to thank them for that because they have done so much for this project. My hope is that we can get this study completed, that there's something that can be done where we can have this study completed, that we can meet the deadline of the feasibility study. And then the next step would be for us to start putting out proposals out there to try to obtain the funding to be able to build this building. If this study does not get done, we do not meet the deadline of the feasibility study, this project is it's just gonna be dead. And then all of those, the years of work is gonna be done, we're gonna have to start over. And that's a lot of work. We're not opposed to a lot of work, but it's very discouraging for everybody who has committed years of work, committed a lot of hours of work. All of our dreams and all of our hopes are in that building. You know, we have grand visions for that building that would offer us the room to be able to do what we need to do, but also to do the things that we've wanted to do. You know, to have our industrial kitchens where we can teach classes. There's just so much vision out there. I do know that, you know, we have spoken to a lot of people who do share that vision for us. And I want to thank those people who have been out there and who support us, everybody who's here, and other people who support us in that. It is very important for us to have a cultural center, to have a new building. We're living presently in a condemned building, working in a condemned building. There's not much life left to this building. We had an inspection done 4 years ago, excuse me, that told us that this building had 5 years of life. So we presently have 1 year left. There's a lot of things that we, as a staff and as our students, deal with on a daily basis working in here. But we do it because we all love what we do and we all believe in what we do. But we believe it's time now, you know, for a new building. We do need to have a new building. And the hope is that we'll be able to complete this study, meet the deadline for the feasibility study, and be able to move to the next step. I'm not sure, maybe Regan Jacobs or, Regan Tarbell. I'm looking at Regan.
That always happens.
If she would, I know, if she would be able to offer something. Or
I just wanted to acknowledge the work that Lisa Phillips has been doing. I'm kind of sitting here quiet as ED, and maybe some people are wondering, Lisa has been the building, the lead on the building file. I was on a maternity leave when a lot of momentum, forward momentum started happening, and she's just been rolling with it. And I'm entirely so grateful to her to be able to express this and communicate this to everybody.
Yeah. We're really here today because we wanted to get the facts out, you know, about the project and how it came about, where we are, and also to address the situation that's taken place this week. It's very hard for us, and it's hard for me to speak because I'm a very honest, frank person. So I just want to state the facts and be very frank. And it can be very frustrating for someone like myself or any one of us sitting at this table when you work within an organization, whether you're in a leadership position, you know, because we're bound sometimes and we need to be careful with what we say. We're bound by, you know, the policies and all of that of our organizations, or the regulations and policies and obligations of somebody who's in leadership. And it can be very, very hard sometimes because a lot of information can get out there very easily for people who are not bound by those obligations and by those policies, and they're free to be able to say and do as they please. It's even harder when not all of the proper information is given out. Yesterday we tried with the best of our abilities to be able to give out that information to the community member, you know, to explain all of the situation and to be able to explain the project like I'm doing now, to be able to answer any questions, and that wasn't afforded to us. Instead, we were sworn at, you know, and treated very aggressively. And then, you know, then it took to the bushes where where the company who was here, you know, who had been asked to come to our community to do the work, was then treated the same way, but I think even worse. It's very hard when there are people who are not bound by these obligations and not bound by these, and they're able to say things and do things. And it's even worse when the proper information is not being given out. Okay? That's what we're here for, to at least tell you how this project started, how it came about, the steps that it's gone through, and how we got here now. It's very hard, you know, when not all of the information is given, and that's what we attempted to do yesterday. You know, if somebody doesn't have the information, please come to us. We will explain to you the best that we can. But we have been on the radio. We have talked about this new building. We have done it here at our own annual General Assembly, which we hold, you know, late fall every year. We talk about the new building. We give updates on it. We've been on the radio. Like I said, we've met with the Combined Schools Committee. We met with different groups within the community, gave those presentations to the teachers and the students at Kahnawake Survival School. And the information has been out there. You know, but if people don't have the information or you have questions, then we encourage you to please come see us, and we'll do our best to talk to you about it. It's unfortunate that this had to happen yesterday. And it's very unfortunate now that we're at a standstill, you know, and that the possibility of this study not being completed and affecting the entire project as a whole could be a reality. You know. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Regan?
I just wanted to know, you had mentioned a few times that it's frustrating that you weren't able to, you're dealing with inaccuracies. In your opinion, or the opinion of the panel, what has been the most misinformation to the community that you would like to clear up?
The clear cutting of the land, I would think, is the number one. I know it's the biggest concern, I would think, but it's also the biggest misconception. There's no intent whatsoever on our part to go there and clear cut an approximated 3 acres of land. There's no way that's not going to happen. That's not the vision of the cultural center, the theater group, or anybody.
The information that's getting out there about the ribbons that were around the trees, that was for cataloging the trees, not to identify which trees to cut. So that's complete misinformation.
Lynn? Oh, sorry.
That was exactly what I was going to ask. What is tree survey? So cataloging is that there were different types of trees, and you were logging what tree is there, what trees are there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because if someone took a picture of all the ribbons and
the thing that's very frustrating about that is that in the meeting yesterday, all of this information was given, that those trees were identified to be surveyed. At no time were they meant to be cut. So no, that information has all been given, and I think that's the frustrating part, right? That we did do our best to give out the information throughout this entire process, but more specifically yesterday. All of the information was given. Now, whether it's given back out there within the community in an accurate fashion, we have no control over that. But that information was given out yesterday, that no trees were to be cut. It was only brush. Yes, they had saws, but no trees were cut yesterday, and the saws were working because it was clearing the brush. Trina? Oh, sorry, wait, Greg had a question.
So, say the work gets done, and the boring is all done, and everything's done on time, and the site is found not to be suitable for building. What are the next steps?
Good question. So then we would definitely have to start moving to a new location and identifying a new location. But in fact, if we complete it the way we're supposed to complete it, will make us probably more eligible to fund again, to continue But if you just drop a project that you've been
Default.
funded for, you're at default. I would say it'll be much more difficult. And we were asked by the community member to change locations now. We're 3 days left into this project, and then basically it's getting all the written tightened up and getting it prepared as we move into now finding out all the details of the project and looking for dollars. Those dollars will be asked to community, they'll be asked everywhere we can to get this goal and dream for Cultural Center. So, yeah, if it's not feasible, then at least if we're not in default, I could see us moving location, trying to identify a location. And what surprised me the most was finding out that our community is 85% or so privately owned. I found that out yesterday. I'm getting educated as well. And the rest is community land. So finding the space that we need, and just to maybe add a little bit of, like, I don't know, Lisa didn't really mention, but when we did arrive at that location, I don't work for Cultural Center, but did I ever feel it? I felt it, that this is where they're going to be able to preserve that land, to bring that land to life. Because right now, it's not, you know, there's the reason why there's fences going up, education told us, because ATCs are in there, there's people partying in there. It's not being used for what it could be used for. And Culture Center, along with education and different partnerships and what could be, it could be environment, all the education on environment, the stuff that's out there, the medicines, the walks, the cooking, all the outdoor, bringing the students, not only from KSS, all the students, to come there and be a part of it. There's going to be curriculum for our children at a museum that we don't have. A museum like the other museums, yes, we have that here, but it's too small. It can't even show who we are as Mohawk people. We need a place that's going to be able to house artifacts. It's going to be able to show the true history of Kahnawake. So, and that actually, it's a beautiful spot. I get it. It's the trees and this and that. But if people were able to see some of the conceptual designs where this building, we don't have a shape so much yet, because it could be, the trees are kind of sparse out there. If you take a walk out there, I know when you see the frontage or there's pictures being shown right now, but when you go inside, they're sparse. And what the hope is that there's trees in between the building, part of it, so that it keeps its natural state as best as possible. Mm-hmm. And this is the hard work that's gone into the project. We are taking the community's questions and concerns into consideration, which is why we lean to environment, as they're not a partner, but for their expertise and making sure that we do it the right way. So I went a little off on your question, but.
Speaking, oh, sorry.
Trina?
I just wanted to.
No.
Speaking of environment, there were some community members who were expressing that, you know, the natural habitat would be killed, diminished. There was some issues surrounding, you know, possibly putting a freeze on that because of that natural habitat. Could you expand on that maybe? Is that under something that should be a concern?
Well, like Lisa mentioned, when they had first come to us with the idea of, Trina had come to us and mentioned that this was a location that they were looking into, that they were considering. We did express concerns about that location because it's a hardwood sugar maple forest. It's a beautiful forest. And there are medicines, like they mentioned. They're very well aware of what's in there. And we're scientists, and we need the facts. So they had presented us their vision of what they wanted to have there, and the studies that they would be doing in order to gather all the appropriate information so that people could make an informed decision about whether this site was appropriate or not, in terms of environment, in terms of stability of the site, and in terms of, you know, all the different factors that they were looking into. So in addition to those facts, you know, and the vision that they had to protect the land and to work with the natural features that exist there, we were willing to have an open mind to explore this site and see where it led and see where the study concluded, what the study concluded in terms of the feasibility of this location. We were also consulted. They came and the company EVOC came and consulted with us about what were our concerns about the site, what were some of the things we could envision for the site. And we did come up with some interesting ideas as well, if the site was deemed to be feasible, about, you know, partnering on some environmental education aspects on the site, like maybe a boardwalk through the natural habitat onto the wetlands that would, you know, be able to bring the kids there from our schools to educate them about the natural features of the site. And also the possibility of maybe using some of the ash wood of all the hundreds of thousands of ash trees that are dying in our community, maybe trying to find a way to use some of those trees within the project to make use of that wood. So we had a lot of ideas and we were brainstorming, but we haven't come out with a position on this particular location. We haven't, you know, put out that we're for or against the location. For us, we wanted to have all the facts, and we wanted, you know, to have the feasibility study completed so that we could look at what the results of that study was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was stated as well yesterday. You know, that they are gonna wait. That no time did they give full support of the project, but they do see the benefits. You know, there are some benefits to it that they do see, and different projects are things that can take place within there. I know it's been said, you know, that they're in full support. That wasn't stated, but they have been working very closely with us, you know, to ensure that we're working to the best that we can in terms of the environment. And I want to thank Lynn for that. Anybody have any
I just
questions?
want to ask, we have two representatives from the Turtle Island Theater Group here, if you wanted to say anything.
I'm Kyle Zachary. I'm the president of the Turtle Island Theater. Kira Bova is she assists in any way she can. She's actually she's very helpful. She's I would want to point out how positive this project is for the community in terms of having the cultural center and the museum and the theater. When I look around in this room, I can see several people who have benefited from the theater, from being there, growing up there. And there's so much positivity that comes out of this project, and I would hope that it would be able to continue and move forward, because the theater has been missing from this community for far too long. And we just hope for a good outcome out of all of this.
Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody else have questions? Concerns? Comments?
I want to make a comment.
Okay.
I don't think anybody in this community has any objection to the concept of a new cultural center facility, including all of the parts that are going to be part of the building. The real issue is the site. I've observed a big difference of opinion on the choosing of that site. And in spite of the efforts you've made to distribute information about it, I think it didn't reach enough people. And I don't think, I think the parents of the survival school needed to be consulted in a parents' meeting in order for them to become aware personally of the absolute steps that are going to be taking place there. And I know it's difficult to distribute information in this community. People don't buy the Eastern Door. people don't listen to the radio.
Mhm.
A lot of people are not on Facebook, a lot of people are.
Mhm.
I'm not one that's on Facebook, so, so I'm in a vacuum as far as that's concerned. But, when equipment shows up on a site and ribbons are up there, before there's any explanation,
Mhm.
already the blood pressure goes up
Mhm.
and assumptions are made and positions are hardened.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately, the information, as far as I can see, was not fully disseminated to everybody so that they had an idea of the actual steps that had to take place. I'm not aware that there even was a square footage that was determined. I had a meeting, I was asked to meet with the architect who was the consultant at the time.
Mhm.
And Nancy and I were meeting with him and his people, including Togohahiosta was there.
Mhm.
And I expressed my own opinion about the site, and I thought that the better site would be east of the survival school. And there were other issues as far as what's to be included in the complex.
Mhm.
I thought that it should be strictly the cultural center and the theater. And I was not too keen about the museum, if it was gonna be costing too much in order to provide all that facilities.
Mhm.
So, that was the opinion that I expressed. And I think Nancy agreed with my opinion. But I've heard nothing since then.
Okay.
And I think really that's the biggest problem that we have here is information and the facts.
Mhm.
And so what do we do now? I don't know.
I don't know.
And part of the feasibility study was should have been to look at the east side of the Strive School about its feasibility as well. But there seemed to be concentration on the west side of the Survival
Okay.
School. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah.